You have heard several verses this morning from the Bible read about prayer. So, do you pray? And when you do pray, when do you pray? And what exactly do you pray about? The biblical witness lists many things, times, and circumstances appropriate for prayer. To seek God, discover the divine somewhere in our lives, when we are overwhelmed or threatened, for our needs and wants, and as well as for those of others. To avoid temptation, be delivered from evil, when we feel guilt, plummet into despair. There are prayers for healing of all kinds, for restoration of mind and spirit, prayers of thanksgiving, rejoicing, and praise, prayers for patience when under trial and in celebration when filled with hope. Prayers are offered in the depths of suffering, from the heights of ecstatic happiness, when anxiety fills our being, body, mind, and soul. There are prayers for all the saints, for enemies, for leaders everywhere, and for the whole people of God. Indeed, we are invited, even encouraged, actually called to pray in every circumstance, to pray with persistence, to pray constantly, to pray without ceasing. Praying persistently, praying without ceasing, praying constantly. How is that even possible? Actually, it is impossible. Impossible if we hold to a traditional view of prayer filled with words spoken or silent, happening only in times specially set aside for prayerful purposes. It is impossible if we can only hear God speak to us when we are paused in stilled silence as we intentionally disengage from the rest of life for a while. It is impossible to pray without ceasing unless somehow we have broad-ranging understandings of prayer, expanding our connection with the holy so that our relationship with the divine infuses our whole lives, making this ongoing communication between us and God ever present and ever active in all things. It is possible, very possible, to pray without ceasing, to pray constantly when we learn to experience the divine, to have ongoing openness to God in every moment of our lives, when we embrace prayer as a multifaceted experience, continually present in every aspect of every living moment. Open to Spirit, in communion with Spirit, we can experience God, hear God's voice anytime, anywhere, no matter what we are doing. We can communicate with the holy, expressing everything within us in unending dialogue, and most often without words. But to arrive at this place, we need resources, a range of experiences, a willingness to embrace the reality that we will be transformed to the very core of our being when our lives become prayer. During Lent, we focused on Fort Street at prayer, and as we did, we had opportunities for several different practices of prayer. We experienced 2 or 3 ways of the many possibilities to pray using the labyrinth. We had opportunities for guided meditation, for private, unguided reflection and prayer, for ongoing options to engage more deeply the prayer that Jesus taught, as well as support in praying spontaneously in a variety of circumstances. We prayed by writing on stones placed in water and exchanged for a symbol or a word of assurance and hope, left at the foot of the cross, and after Easter returned back to the earth into our peace garden. We prayed movement prayers at the Ash Wednesday service and in morning worship. We hung on the cross prayers of confession and prayers and commitments written on Maundy Thursday, pledges that we made to pray continually throughout the Easter tide until the day of Pentecost, these prayers that we put on the cross. We prayed for ourselves. We prayed for our community of faith, for a host of concerns and issues, for the city of Detroit and our role as a transforming force in the city where we live in faith community. Elders and deacons stood ready each Sunday after worship during Lent to pray together with and for anyone who wanted to pray. You see, we wanted to give you many opportunities for prayer because we need many ways to convey the longings of our hearts, our souls, our beings. We need many ways to hear the voice of the holy, to feel the movement of God in our lives, to experience divine love. We need to continue growing into a fullness of relationship with the life-giving Spirit within us, with a settling, comforting Spirit sustaining us through whatever comes our way. We need to continue growing into the fullness of relationship with a wildly moving, unpredictable Spirit everywhere in the universe, everywhere in our lives, drawing us into God's call on our lives. But what about those times when Spirit seems elusive, the divine nowhere to be found? What about those times when you can't pray constantly, when you can't even pray at all, when you can find no means by which to express the depths of your being to God, the anxieties consuming you, the need that you may not even know that you have, no means by which to hear the still small voice of the living God, to feel the gentle comfort of sustaining Spirit, to know the peace of the living Christ? What about those times when you are just too tired, too worn down, when everything you have within you is focused solely on survival and your grip on life itself seems to be slipping away?